Welcome to Curatti on Air. Today's special guest is Anna Hoffman. Welcome, everybody, to Curatti on Air. I'm your host, Cheryl Tan, and thrilled to have all of you joining us, including our special guest today, Anna Hoffman, the creator of the Traffic Generation Cafe. She's a blogger, she's a writer, she's a mother, and an online business person. Anna, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, it's a pleasure, Cheryl. Thank you for having me.
And of course, Andy Capaloff is here, the COO of Curatti.com. Andy, great to talk with you again, and Happy New Year.
Great to talk with you again, Cheryl, and Happy New Year to both of you and to everyone else.
That's right. I feel like there's a renewed interest in blogging and restarting and getting your words out. And so this is such a great time to talk with you, Anna, because you've devoted so much of your online career to perfecting your writing. Let's talk first, though, before we get too much into the writing and repurposing and content strategy, and talk about how you got to this point.
Wow, that's a very quick question to cover a lot of information here. But in a nutshell, a few years ago, I was looking for something to do online when my daughter was born. And I had I knew nothing about online businesses, content, blogging, nothing. So, as normal people would do, I would do a lot of research and bought into a lot of all the wrong things. But, it teaches you lessons, and those lessons are incredibly valuable. You learn what to do, what not to do. And that's sort of, how people say that my overnight success took me 10 years to build. Sort of the same thing. We all make mistakes, we fail, and then eventually when we do make it, people say, wow, you must have been born with a silver spoon in your mouth. No, I made all the same mistakes. You just didn't know about them. So I've started a couple of blogs because I was told, one blog before Traffic Generation Cafe, mainly because I was told that blogging is something that we had to do. Now, I listened, I started it, and then I'm thinking, well, now I have a blog. Now what? Who's reading it? No one. My husband, maybe everyone, if I made him. And that's where the problem became very obvious to me. It's not really about creating content, because content just sits where you put it on your blog. How do you get it out there, and how do you get people coming back to your site so that you can sell or whatever it is that your business is all about? So that's how I started Traffic Generation Cafe, because my first point was, well, let's learn everything about generating traffic, and how do I get more eyes on my content, on my message. And I started learning everything I could about SEO, how Google works, social media, networking with other bloggers. And then eventually I said, well, I want to know it. Maybe other people do too. And so I started Traffic Generation Cafe, and within 2 months, it just flew off the shelf. I was blown away. So I finally, after all those mistakes, I hit the gold mine. And on top of it, I love doing it. So that ain't bad.
It's like you work so hard to get to the thing that will work, and then you hit it. You hit the jackpot in a sense, and then it kind of all falls into place. When you started, were you a writer? Was it always the writing that kind of drew you to this space?
Absolutely not. I actually strongly disliked writing. Some of my readers know that I almost flunked out of college because I hated writing. And English was my second major in college, so we had to write like every day, all the time. And I'm like, I cannot do this anymore. So no, writing does not come natural to me. But what I've learned as I progressed in my writing is that, and when we first start, a lot of us feel pressured to talk to our readers a certain way. We sort of create a persona that we want to be, that we want to present ourselves to our readers
Right.
as such. And that's a completely wrong way to go, because It's our readers that we need to focus on. We need to learn what kind of content they want to read. Is it, are you talking about more scientific concepts and you have more of a, scientific-minded community, or you have just a bunch of other bloggers, or you have moms, or you have dads, whatever your niche is. That's how you talk to the people. And bottom line is, if you're in that niche, most likely your mindset is geared to speak to those people. So the best you can do for your writing is to be yourself.
Right.
I kind of learned that. It took me a while. And once I learned that, writing has become a pleasure. And I can't tell you how amazing that was for me, because before it was like pulling teeth. I really was not, just was not my thing. But then once I started writing as I speak, it's just like, wow, that's not bad at all. I can do this every day. So that's sort of how writing turned into more of a passion than a chore for me.
It's like a flip of a switch, right?
Right.
I have a thought, because writing as I speak kind of comes more naturally to me. When I try and become a bit more concise, because I'm not particularly a man of a very few words, then maybe it becomes a little bit more difficult for me. But the whole concept, people spend hours thinking and overthinking and going crazy on how they might put something. But the thing is that if people like you, they like you for who, or they should like you for who you are, because ultimately that's the you that they're going to see, whether it's what you intend or whether it just happens at some point. So it's always best to be you.
Exactly. And that's when your writing is the best as well, because you know what you're doing. You know how to be you best than anyone else. So definitely, I agree, Andy.
And Andy, as the COO of Curatti, I mean, you deal with many writers, and you know the articles and the points of view that resonate with your readers. And you probably see that as well in your dealings with the writers that come in.
Well, I certainly see people who overwrite. and I do I do steer them away from it. We have a number of people. We have some more experienced writers, but we also have some who are really not very well known. And not everyone's able to take the direction, but those who do, there can be some wonderful results. And they probably are taking a very similar path to the one that you took, Anna.
Yes, I exactly remember some of the top bloggers when I tried to guest post for them when I first started. The feedback that I would get was a little too wordy, simplify. And back then, of course, I'm like, I write perfectly fine just the way I am. And now, years later, I know exactly what they were telling me, and I know exactly that they were right, because simplifying, like Andy, like you said, so you just write down however your thoughts coming out, even if it's bad writing. Bad writing is a lot easier to edit than air, right? So you just start writing. And then after you're done, you edit. You don't add, you edit it down. And that's one of the trends that I see in content marketing these days. Andy, I would love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Simplification. When anybody sends me an email, and very proudly I might add, I'm not saying they shouldn't be proud, but still, 10,000 word blog post. Wow. It sounds incredible, but who has the time to actually digest and act on a 10,000 word blog post, right? So maybe a couple of years ago, that was phenomenal, because everybody was going from short to longer form. But now the trend is going back, because people are just too busy to read this kind of, and it might be shared, which is great for social media. It's great social proof. But if you are in a business to solve a problem, and I really hope that that's what every business owner intends to do. They need to solve a problem for their reader. A 10,000 word blog post just won't cut it, because it overwhelms. It doesn't solve any problems. It just adds on our plates. So simplification, you write it down and then you cut it down. and you use exactly the amount of words that you need to teach the concept. That's it. The rest is just fluff.
Right. Get your point across and get it as quickly as you can. In this day
Absolutely.
and age, it's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
I want to go back on a
keep them right,
to keep their attention. I want to go back to one of the points you made earlier about Traffic Generation Cafe and how it surprised you in its in how people responded to it. What do you think was different about that effort to launch then versus what you had tried before?
I think, again, my very first blog post, I had no direction, number one. Number two, and you kind of need to know what it is that you are going to talk about. You don't have to know it right away. You can narrow down your niche, but you have to have a niche of some sort. So I didn't have any direction. Then, of course, secondly, I didn't know enough about marketing to market anything because I just didn't have enough knowledge. And then again, writing was my biggest problem because remember easy articles, completely useless, a bunch of fluff. That's sort of how I wrote because it was so prevalent back then.
Right.
You know, everybody kind of wrote that way. And I figured, well, that's how we're supposed to write, right?
It's what you're supposed to do, yeah.
Exactly. And then when I did Traffic Generation Cafe, I said, you know, forget about it. I think in bullet points. I'm just going to write in bullet points because that's what my brain thinks. You know, this is very compartmentalized, very organized. And I think that's what made the difference because all of a sudden I was able to explain concepts that were a bunch of words on every other blog in very simple terms, and people related to that. And that's when it clicked that, you know, that's how I'm supposed to write. Don't overthink it. Just, you know, bullet points, and that works great.
Gotcha. I think that's great. It's kind of thinking outside of the box. And it kind of leads to another one of the concepts that you're talking about now. When you listen to the gurus, they say you need to, write a blog post a day or whatever, create content every minute of the day and then share it on every social platform. And you're really, really busy. But you're kind of thinking, again, a mindset shift, thinking about it in another way, maybe not so much creating content, but doing something else with what you've already created.
Right. So even a couple of years ago, we were taught that our website is a hub. So you publish the best work on your website.
Right.
And there lies a problem. So you publish those great, hopefully great blog posts, right? But they just sit there because they don't have legs to go get traffic, right? How does that work? So that's why, to me, it never made any sense. So I think the current trend or the future trend, I think it's current, is just a lot of people are not paying attention to it, but it's there. It's decentralizing your content. Meaning you can't keep it all on one site, hoping that somebody will find their way there. And, you know, social media is great, but let's face it, most business owners do not have thousands of followers on social media, right? They're niche specific. They have maybe a couple of hundred, maybe they'll get 10 retweets, you know. I mean, they don't get much traffic from that. So it's not feasible for most business owners. That's why when they read all the marketing blogs, they feel like it doesn't apply because they're not, you know,
right.
They don't have that much of a reach, right? So that doesn't work for them. And besides that, what other promotion do you have if your content just sits on your blog? Not that many options. So my point here is that we need to find a way to take that content and share it on other platforms and let it be just as great as content that's sitting in your hub, you know, in your primary website. And that's where content repurposing comes in. And, you know, content repurposing has, I don't think people quite understand what it is yet because it's not a solid concept yet. And sometimes people confuse it with content recycling, like, well, do I take my old blog post and update it and publish it at a new date? on the same site. No, that's not what content repurposing is. Well, do I just take the same blog post and republish it everywhere else? No, that's content syndication. That's not content repurposing. So because people don't understand what it is, and because when I sit down with someone in 5 minutes and I said, well, this is how it works, and they go, oh, that's amazing. How come I never thought about it before? But then the problem is, like, it sounds amazing, but how do you do that? How do you,
Right.
So we'll start from the beginning. So content repurposing basically is all about taking a message, whatever your business message is, and taking it to where your target audience is right now. And right now, they're on your website, they are on YouTube, they are on Pinterest, they are on SlideShare, they are on all kinds of third-party platforms, right? So it's your job to take your content out there and then bring them back to your site. And that's where content repurposing comes in, because we all receive content differently. Obviously, I think in text, I think in bullet points, but most of my readers actually don't. They like a video, or they actually really like SlideShare presentations because it's concise,
right,
and because they can do it at their own pace. They don't have to be rushed by video. So, everybody is different. So what content repurposing is, you take your existing blog post. Let's talk about existing first, because this is kind of mind-blowing blowing in many ways, because creating new content takes a lot of time. It's effort, it's ideas, it's writing down, it's editing, it's creating links, it's creating supporting screenshot visuals,
right,
and it's just a
lot of time.
Right? So for much less time and with a lot more reach, you take your existing blog post, you look at it and you say, okay, this blog post is perfect because it solves a problem for my target market. And that's very important. You have to solve a problem. Entertainment is great, but then when you bring back audience that just wants to be entertained, and you're not in the entertainment kind of niche, that becomes a problem, right? You want target audience, and for that you need to solve a problem of some sort. So let's say your post solves a problem. You take the post and then you condense the post to what I would call a minimum viable storyline. The storyline that makes sense without anything else, without any additional content. But the catch is that you need to make it sound so appealing, and you need to say that there is more this came from. So it needs to be a complete thought, but make them want more. And I called my system content boomerang, because I love the word boomerang, how it basically, you send it out there, right? And then it comes back with traffic. And I'm just like, wow. Right?
Yeah. Okay, wait. So for example, like, let's say on my blog, or well, your blog, maybe you have an article that says 5 reasons why no one is reading your blog. So you're saying that you take that existing piece, that blog post on your website, and then you sort of make another one that is just the bare bones of that, and then you put that somewhere else?
Well, for instance, let's take that, and we'll say, I'll take just one mistake that people make.
Oh, gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
And I will expand on that mistake, and I will turn that into a SlideShare presentation.
Okay.
And then it's somewhere in the middle of the presentation and towards the end, I will say, I have more. Or I won't just say I have more. I will say, did you know that another mistake most bloggers make is this one? If you want to learn how ridiculous that is and how you can fix it, this is where you come.
Gotcha. Okay?
So basically, out of that one blog post, I can make 5 SlideShare presentations, if you think about it, if I do one.
That's great.
So it's just really, that's where your creativity comes in, because there's no right or wrong way of doing it, as long as your repurposed content solves a problem. That's a huge one. Then has a relevant call to action. By relevant, I mean it makes sense within the context of the of the content.
Right.
And then it does need to entertain. It does need to have some sort of a storyline, some people in it. Can be just stats. I can go to Wikipedia for that. I don't need, to go to SlideShare for that. So you take, that blog post, you turn it into a SlideShare. I've been doing this for about 3 years now. I can literally turn something into a SlideShare, not a fancy one, but a SlideShare anyway, in about 2 minutes.
What?
Literally, yes.
2 minutes?
There are ways of doing it without copying and pasting. I mean, it's not going to be a masterpiece, but it will work.
Right.
So then I have ways to do the same thing and turn that SlideShare into a video. That takes time because you already have the text in front of you.
Right.
All you need is screencasting software
Right.
to just read the text and go through the slides. And you have a video. So now you're reaching your audience with your message and a call to action to come back on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Pinterest, any other video sharing platform. And of course, presentation itself can go to SlideShare, right? Mm-hmm. Then you can download it as images and share the images on Instagram, on Pinterest, on Facebook, on Twitter. And soon enough, people come to me and say, you are a one-woman show. How do you do it? I see you everywhere. Your content is all over the place. This is how I do it. Mm-hmm. And I don't create any new content to do this. Mm-hmm. I use existing. I don't need to generate ideas. I don't need to generate anything else. It takes me a lot less time, and the reach is tremendous. And the funny thing, I just found that out yesterday, so I have to share it with someone. For whatever reason, I was doing research on Alexa.com. Mm-hmm. It turns out that percentage-wise, I get more traffic for the keyword SlideShare than SlideShare does.
Wow. That's impressive.
I know, but that's the power of content repurposing. Mm-hmm. Because once your content out there, people see it and they say, whoa, I want to embed that SlideShare or embed that video. Or, and all of a sudden, what I started seeing is links were coming in because I was getting so much exposure elsewhere. Mm-hmm. That links started to come in and other bloggers started mentioning me. So I just was getting all kinds of traffic. So what content repurposing does truly, it's like the new way. It's really not new. It's hidden in plain sight. People just don't do it. But it's like expands your reach like a huge net. Mm-hmm. And you may not see the, like concrete traffic in a day or a week. But in a couple of weeks, in a couple of months, you will just be amazed how it starts pouring in because you just did this.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Great.
Like, oh!
No, it's very exciting. If you think about all the things that we've been writing, if we've been writing, a new post a week, then a lot of people already have the content that they need to make this system really work. So that's exciting. That's very, very exciting. Anna, is there a way that people can learn more about this content boomerang or reach out to you or find you?
Well, yes, actually. About a month ago, I was asked to speak at Social Media Marketing World 2017 on...
Congratulations.
Thank you. About content repurposing. That was it was 2 months ago. And so from that point on, I'm like, oh, I do have all that knowledge. What am I going to do with it? Why don't I, share it in some way? So 2 months ago, literally, I decided I'm just going to create a course. I've never done anything like that before. I always dreaded doing those kind of things. But because of this opportunity, because my readers kept saying, you have to create something, we need to learn how to do this, I created a system that's still in the works. It's called Content Boomerang, as I already mentioned, and you can find out more about that. It's not really open to the public yet. I'm doing a private pilot launch at the moment to my email list, but the full course will be available before Social Media World in March. So, and you can find out more at trafficology.com/content boomerang. So Trafficology Blueprint, it's like my future traffic generation university where I just pour it all out.
Right, I love it. Yeah, everything you know is going to be right there, right?
Yeah, like Andy said, the words just come out. You have to put them down somewhere, and I needed to come out in a system. So
Right.
a blog, it's hard to turn that into a system of any kind because it's just, very sporadic by nature. But Trafficology Blueprint will be more logically organized, which is, I look forward to that because then I can find things finally logically organized.
I love it.
That's where you can learn more about content boomerang and everything I know about content repurposing.
Fantastic. And Andy, I know that your mind is going in a million directions with all the content that you have at Curatti.
It is, and I'm certainly the whole content repurposing is something that we're aware of, and it's a time thing. And that, to me, getting out the message out to people, and I'm one of these people that, yes, you know what it is for those of us who do, but how do you find the time to do it? And that is something that's really, really, that's grabbed me. So
right. And as you said, people have most likely heard of the concept. They even know what it is, but then they don't do it because how do you start? Right. I mean, it sounds exciting, but it sounds like a lot. And when you don't know what you're doing, that's precisely the point. And the first students going through my class, their first question was, I have no idea how do I know which content to repurpose? A simple question, but they didn't. They would look at their 700 posts and think, oh my goodness, and just walk away from them because how do you start, right? Mm-hmm. Exactly. So taking them step by step through a system with checklists where they're like, oh, this is not that difficult now that you put it on a piece of paper. Purpose, yes.
Very nice. This is the year that we start to repurpose, right, Andy?
Absolutely.
This is the year we begin.
I think I'm on board.
Anna Hoffman, thank you so much for joining us for Curatti on Air. We all learned a lot.
Thank you so much for having me, Cheryl. I had a blast.
We hope you found today's Curatti on Air interview informative and entertaining. Look for new articles and video conversations with influencers and emerging leaders at Curatti.com. Thanks for joining us.